project will be creating a zombie battle. And as we go through this, we'll be going step by step, and I'll be actually doing the code with you. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so just a general intro. Our goal of the project is definitely to create a fun zombie battle game just by coding, and the platform we'll be using is Minecraft. So the game structure is pretty much every time you defeat one zombie, two more will take its place, and throughout the game you'll figure out how long you can last against these multiplying zombies. So it's definitely going to be a fun game that we'll create, and we're going to make it as difficult and easy as possible at the same time. There are two parts of the project, so we're going to create the first part today, and we'll be all doing this together through Minecraft. So to get started, we're going to go ahead and open Minecraft. So you should have downloaded it by now. Go ahead and do that, and from there you'll press play. I already got it set up, but we'll go step by step. So once we click play, we're going to go ahead and create new. And then once we select that, we get two options, but feel free to go ahead and click templates. And from the selection, you'll see a bunch of templates that come up in different areas. I went ahead and just selected a block of grass just because I want my zombie battle to be basically an open field. But feel free to pick any template. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and let it load for a sec, just because it does take a while sometimes. Once you see you're in an open field, go ahead and click the letter C on your keyboard. So once you select that, it'll open up and it'll give you the option to select your coding area. So go ahead and click Makeshift Make Code. Once you do that, you should get this screen right here. You'll click on New Project, and then this is where all the fun begins. And we're going to start coding, but first let's do just a short little warm-up. That way we get familiar with the tool and are kind of familiar with some key terms as well. So throughout this, we'll be writing code that tracks every step our player takes, and we'll display that number of steps in the game chat. So to start, this is just a warm-up by the way, so feel free to ask any questions anytime, of course. We'll start by finding the following code blocks. So before I start coding, or any coder starts coding, it's always good to plan out what you're trying to code. That way you're following it step by step and not overlooking something. So for here, this is going to be our first couple steps. We're going to start with on start. We're going to create a variable called steps. And if you aren't familiar yet, variable is going to be very important throughout coding, because the variable can be used to track a number. So for instance, when we create our variable, we're going to name it steps because we're trying to see how many steps the player is going to take, and we want to track that number of steps. So for instance, here we're going to use it to set the steps to 0, but here we're going to use the same variable and manipulate it. So from there, those will be our next couple of steps. Set steps to 0. Then on this player walk, we're going to change steps by 1, and then we're going to have it say steps. And then by adding both blocks of code, we can walk around and see the game counting all the steps we're taking after starting the program. All right? So let's go ahead and actually code these first couple of steps. Of course, this is just a practice round. So I went ahead and created my variable, but once you do that, this wouldn't show up for you. So you would go to variables, make a variable, then you would label it what you would, like for instance, we're trying to track the number of steps, so I would just label it steps here, and then you would go ahead and click OK. And once you do that, you get your variable and your sets. Now the next part of our code was set steps to 0. So using variables right here, we're going to drag that in, and we're going to fit it right under where it says on start. That way, when we're starting the game, the character is set to 0. Then on player walk, so that means right here, we're trying to change our steps by 1, and then we're trying to say steps. So here you'll go and drag that right in. And now we're going to go ahead and press say steps. So here you'll go back to player and go ahead and drag that in. You see, this is not what we want. We want the variable to be here. So we'll go ahead and go to variables. We're going to drag variables right in. And then this should be your first set of codes. So let's just double check that we followed it through. On start, we create a variable called steps. We did do that. And then we set the steps to 0. And then on player walk, we change the steps by 1. And then we define steps on the bottom. And then once we run this, it will run the code. Pretty cool. So right now, since there's only one character here, we haven't done much, but it's just the start of our code. So this was our practice round. So go ahead and click the letter C again, and you should bring you back to your keyboard. Now we're going to actually start the zombie battle game. Okay, so let's get these out of the board. Go ahead and remove them and press delete. Same here. Okay, now a fresh start. So for a new project, we're going to create a new project for the zombie battle. The game setup will include title, a score, a game settings, the player weapon, and we're going to spawn a zombie. So let's just do steps 1 and 2 real quick. So the first step is by following the code blocks. On start, we want to show the player title, which is going to be ourselves. And then the title is going to be zombie battle with a subtitle. Then we want to create another variable. And this variable is going to be score. And then we're going to set the score to 0. So when the code is started, the game will display the title for the zombie battle. And then the score is reset each time we start because we want to set a new score each time we play. So let's go ahead and try this together. Now, just another easy fact. You see how there's each of them are color coded? So if you're having trouble finding, say, a line of code, use the colors to match them up. So for instance, our first line of code, we already have on start here. We're going to bring in show. Now, if you go towards the bottom, right here, this is the code we're looking for. Let's go ahead and drag that in. This code, let's remove for now. And show nearest player, we're going to change that to yourself, meaning ourselves, and the title. So go ahead and title it Zombie Battle, or if you want to title it something else, feel free to. Okay, and then a subtitle. So I'm going to say good luck because it's a game and I want the players to feel lucky. Awesome. And now the next one is the variable. So if you remember last time, we had to create a variable. So we got to do the same thing for here because we want to count the scores. So we're going to go ahead and make a variable. It's going to be labeled score. Okay. And then we're going to set score to 0 because any game, it always starts off with 0. Let's drag that in and fit that right in that little jigsaw puzzle. Nope, I guess that stayed over. And then this should be your first line of code. Doing good so far, so let's go ahead and do step 2. So step 2, although this looks like a lot, it's really real quick, and we'll go ahead and do that together. So we're going to be adding the game settings. We'll write code that sets the settings for a zombie battle because right now the battle, there's really nothing to set it, like what time of day is, what's the weather. We don't know anything about the background, so this is something we need to create ourselves. And like any coder, I'm going to write down what I want to do beforehand. So we're going to do the time set. We're going to do the weather. We're going to set the difficulty because we want to see how easy or hard we want to make it. And then we're going to change the game mode to game mode type, which could be, in this case, it's going to be survival. So let's go ahead and do these first, and then we're going to go to this part and see where we can fit them in. So to start, like I mentioned before, the colors really do help here. So if you're looking for your code, try to match it up with the color. So now we want to do time set. And we're going to actually fit this right into our code right here because I don't know if you see on this image, all the code is basically put right under our previous code right here. So we're going to just fit them in and then we'll continue. Okay, so of course, zombie battles, I want it to be at night, but feel free to change that because this is your game. The weather, let's bring that in. It's going to be right here at the very top, and let's drag that in. And here it says clear, but I'm going to follow the code and just make yellow thunder. Now the set difficulty. Now this, here it says peaceful, but for my game, I want to make it, let's make it normal because I want to make it a little bit fair. And then for yourself, so I'm going to bring in our for code. So see, I already made one mistake right here. Okay. Oh no, I didn't. See this code right here? We're going to change the game mode. And then it's going to be for ourselves. So here they made it for survival. I'm going to make it for survival as well because it's a battle. And then I'm going to change this to myself. Okay. And then these are pretty much all stored within the onStart code. So these are going to be similar settings that we're going to be using to spawn zombies. And we need these zombies to be alive and so they can attack the player. And the rest of the code will be added underneath. So the starting code we wrote basically will just continue, and then we'll continue going forward and creating more of the game. Now I'm going to stop right here and let you guys catch up.